So we are just waiting for Councillor Woods to join us, and as soon as he comes up, we'll get started.
I just admitted someone into the room. I'm going to see if I recognize the phone number.
Hello?
Oh,
Sounds like Councillor Woods.
that's
Yeah,
Councillor Woods.
Sorry,
8492.
yeah, 8492, that's me,
Okay.
Councillor Woods. I was having problems getting online, and I was having problems calling in too, but I finally got through here.
Well, anyway, I hope you can hear us all right and participate all right. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order then. It's actually coming up 6:34, I guess. I see that the recording is turned on, and we are actually at item 5 on the agenda, having completed prior to supper time a brief in-camera session of council. So again, I will call the meeting to order. I have I'm showing all 5 of our councillors. I'm showing the following staff: our CAO clerk, Michelle Hendry, Bob Whitman, our fire chief, Pat Allen, our treasurer, and I'm showing 4. Oh, and sorry, our planner, John Jackson, and then 3 other folks: Doug Hickey, Sarah Cook from the North Star, and Jackie Wareham from Contact North, who is going to be presenting to us in a few minutes as a delegation. So once again, I will ask councillors if anyone has any pecuniary interest to declare. Okay, let the record show that none was declared. I will also ask you, if you're all of the participants, if you are not speaking, if you wouldn't mind muting your line, either by pressing the mute button on the screen if you're on screen, or by *6 using a telephone pad, or of course if you're on a cell phone, there's a mute button. So the first item of business for tonight is to approve our agenda. Could I get a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move, Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Woods. Seconded by?
I'll second, Councillor McEwen.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Anyone opposed to the agenda as circulated? Okay, thank you. That's carried. Items arising from the closed session that we had before supper. There is one, which is to approve the minutes of the closed session on April 6th, April 6th, is that correct? Yeah, sorry. Doesn't seem like, yeah, all right. April 6th, 2021, that those be approved as presented. Could I get a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move it, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you. Councillor Lamb, seconded by?
I'll second, Councillor Woods.
Councillor Woods. Any discussion? Anyway, there shouldn't be, because it was in closed session, but and I assume there's no objection. All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is a presentation, which you should already see on your screen, those of you who can see the screens. Our presenter is Jackie Wareham from Contact North. And you will see an outline of her presentation in your packages. So welcome, Jackie, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I wonder if it would be possible for me to share my screen where I have the slides preloaded and ready to go. It just makes the timing a little easier.
I will ask our host, Michelle, is that?
Yes,
You do that?
I believe I can do that. Let me just take me a minute here.
Oh, it looks like I can share.
Okay, have I got it? Okay, very good.
Okay, so are you seeing the same slide, but on it?
Yep.
Okay, great. Let me get my presentation here. This over. Oh. Hang on, I'm almost there. I'm getting a bit of an echo as well. Is anybody else hearing that echo? Oh, it's
Michelle.
good now.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Mayor Comrie. Good evening, everybody, counselors and guests. My name is Jackie Wareham, and I'm the Online Learning Recruitment Officer with Contact North in Parry Sound and the surrounding area, including Whitestone. And thank you for inviting me to speak with you today about how our services can help the residents of Whitestone with online learning. It's just an informational presentation. We're not requesting any funding tonight. We're fully funded by the Government of Ontario. So what is Contact North? Who are we? Well, we're a community-based organization, and we help underserved Ontarians in 600 small, rural, remote, Indigenous, and Francophone communities to get jobs and get better jobs by making it possible for them to access education and training without leaving their communities. So if you can't relocate to take a course, and so many people can't, then online learning can be a great option, but it can also be challenging to navigate that world, and that's where we come in. So what we offer at Contact North is we work with individuals, with organizations, and with businesses. We provide program and course information. We help people register for their programs. This can often be confusing, especially if you've been out of school for a while. So we can walk you through the registration step by step. We can help you to explore financial aid options and assist with applying for it. So for example, OSAP, Indigenous funding, bursaries, grants, things like that. We can provide some technical support to help you navigate on your learning platform, whatever that is. And they're all very different. We also provide referrals to our community partners, such as employment centers, literacy providers, the Business Center of Nipissing Parry Sound, for example, social services, and other organizations. And most importantly, we offer support and encouragement on an ongoing basis to students and prospective students as they go through their programs. And as I said, all of our services are available at no cost, which is nice. So let's talk a little bit about what is out there, what kind of programs are out there for you. So did you know there are over 1,000 different online programs and over 18,000 online courses? And you can find all of those on our website, which is called studyonline.ca. So this gives you an idea here of what our website looks like when you go there. You can search our database and filter for the level of education, what particular school, language, English or French you want your course to be in, your start date, and also your delivery method. So that's all at studyonline.ca. Oops. So there are courses, online courses and programs from all of these education providers in Ontario. So no matter what your online learning needs are, we can help you find a program or a course. So we have course information from all of Ontario's 24 colleges and 22 universities, 76 school boards, 9 Indigenous institutes, 200 basic skills providers, and 50 training skills providers. So wow, that is a lot of online courses to choose from. So we can help you with things like, let's say you have a particular program you're looking into, but you need more information. You need to know, when does that particular course start? What are their prerequisites? What are they? How do you apply? How much does it cost? And there's so many more questions that you need to have answered before you can make a decision about what's the best course or program for you. And we can help you find all of those answers. So you're ready to register for your course, and that can be very complicated. Is it through the Ontario University's application? Is it through Ontario colleges? Do you apply directly to the website? Do you need a portfolio? So, it can just get really messy and confusing and overwhelming. So we're here to help you with that. We walk you through the entire registration process and help you get connected to your provider if you need to. We can help with your OSAP application, with locating bursaries and scholarships, grants, or entrance scholarships. And we can help you find the information you need and put you in contact with the right people to answer your questions. So there are thousands of free online courses, as I mentioned before. And some of the free courses that are in high demand right now with businesses and organizations and with some municipalities, I just want to highlight quickly. So one program that's really popular with people who would like to get into working for a municipal government is a program from Northern College. It's a collection of micro-credentials called the Municipal Skills Accelerator Micro-Credential Program. They are offered in the areas of leadership, financial management, and human resources. They have an excellent course on building relationships with Indigenous partners. So those are all free from Northern College. There is another series from Lambton College on exploring diversity and equity. So those are 8 short courses that cover a wide range of diversity issues. And then another course that's of high interest right now is from LinkedIn Learning. It's called Develop Your Customer Service Skills. And that consists of 5 hours of video tutorials. And then there is also the highly regarded Indigenous Perspectives modules from Oise Institute at the University of Toronto. So we've just found that organizations and HR departments are looking for free training so they can achieve their training objectives and close any gaps that they have. And we can provide you with information and help with registration as well. So one of the things our staff offers is regular check-ins to make sure that everything is going the way it should. And we can also offer support or referrals to places that can help. We have an online learning center inside Canada College in Parry Sound, where students can come to use our computer stations and our high-speed internet for their coursework. This is a great option if there's too many distractions at home, or if you just learn better in a room with other people. So our center is closed right now due to the stay-at-home order, but we will reopen when it is safe to do so. One of the other services we offer is exam invigilation. This is the only thing that there sometimes is a fee for, not always, but sometimes. So if you have an exam coming up, we'll work with you and your school to have your exam proctored locally here in your community. Most exams right now are being held online, but some are still required to be in person. So I just want to highlight 3 really quick student success stories of clients that we've supported in our center in Parry Sound. So one client recently came into the center every day last year, this was before COVID, because there were too many distractions at home with her young family. She graduated in the spring from her early childhood education program, and she has a job now in the local school system. We had another client who came into our center every day for the first year of her social service worker program because she didn't have reliable high-speed internet at home. I'm sure there's some people here who are listening or present who can relate to that. In her second year, she was able to connect from home, and she just came into the center to write her exams. So she graduated in 2019, and she's now thinking about going on to university. And our third student, story that I have tonight, is a student who we supported while she worked towards completing her high school education online. She graduated with her Ontario Secondary School diploma, and it was a big deal. You know, she wasn't sure she could do it, but with our help and help from other community partners, she achieved her goal. And now she works part-time at the West Parry Sound Health Center. So again, just to recap some of the services that we support our clients with, I won't go over them again. And so how to keep in touch and stay motivated. You can find, again, studyonline.ca. You can find program information there on our search tool. We also have a live chat, so you can chat with one of our staff members at the Student Information Hotline, and they can provide you with course information. Or you can connect with our center directly and myself. So our center phone number is 1-855-352-1531. Our email address is parrysound@contactnorth.ca. We're on Facebook at Contact North Parry Sound, and we post a lot of different program information on our Facebook page. And then there's also studyonline.ca with the live chat tool. So thank you again for the opportunity to share about how Contact North supports people, organizations, and businesses with online learning. And if you have any online learning goals this year, we would be more than happy to help. Thanks again. Are there any questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Jackie. Folks, do you have any questions for Jackie?
Hi, Jackie.
Yes, hello.
Go ahead.
Councillor Lamb, great presentation, by the way. Very
Thank
well
you.
done.
Thank you.
Jackie, as an organization, like, what are your metrics for success? And, you know, are they being met? Like, how do you know you're being successful or not? I don't mean you personally. I mean, you know, as an organization, what is it, you know?
So we have a number of metrics that we are accountable to the Ministry of Colleges and Universities for. One of the main metrics that we are accountable for is how many course registrations we support people in.
Okay.
And we have, we exceeded our targets for the fiscal year that just ended by quite a margin. So our services are really in demand right now. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor McEwen.
Go ahead, please.
Thanks, Jackie. Excellent presentation. I'm curious to know what the communication link is between, say, you and our local library in Dunchurch, which is, you know, very active and pro technology-wise and all that.
Yes. I believe that my colleagues have been in touch with the library. This is the library in Dunchurch, is that right?
Yes.
Yes, I believe we've been in touch with the Whitestone Library in Dunchurch and have, I think you guys have posted something of ours, one of our posts perhaps on your Facebook page. So there has been some communication. Are you suggesting that we could partner more closely?
Well, I would welcome it for sure. I just wasn't sure what your linkage was with presently.
Mm-hmm.
But, just so
is there
folks-
somebody you would recommend that we speak with?
Yes. I'm sorry to interrupt, Councillor McEwen. It's an excellent question. I'm the Councillor Lamb. I'm the council rep on the library board. And yeah, you can get a hold of the librarian, Eva Fincham, I don't have the number right here, but Eva is well versed in this. Peggy Whale is our chair, and very briefly, we got $150,000 grant from FedNor, and our library now is known sort of as a library and technology center. So this is very much along our line, and I'm sure we could do whatever in terms of either advertising. We're looking to do all these sorts of kinds of things to support the grant and support technology and businesses in the community. So I encourage you to reach out to them. So thank you.
I will.
Sorry, Joe. Sorry, Councillor McEwen, for interrupting, but
That's fine. I forgive. Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
Are there other questions?
Yes, I just have one question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councillor Gorham Matthews.
Thanks for being here, Jackie. I was just curious how many people in the West Parry Sound area were utilizing the center.
So there's a difference between using the center and being supported by us, because most of the people we support never actually come into the center to use our computers and internet. We also had we didn't have a lot of space in our center for the past couple of years, so we couldn't actually accommodate very many students. So unfortunately, just because of what was happening at Canadore in the space they host us, so we're very grateful to be hosted by them, but we had a very small space for a while, so we really only had room for one student to be in our center at a time. And that was the student who was working on her early childhood education, so she was there pretty much every day. We've since been very fortunate to now have a classroom, and we have 3 student stations and the potential for a 4th as well. So once our center opens again, that's how many students we'll be able to accommodate in the center. Is that what you were looking for? Or did you want to know how many overall we support?
I was just wondering how many overall were utilizing the courses that you're offering.
I don't even know how to say that, because it fluctuates from month to month. I would say right now we are probably supporting between 300 and 400 students on a regular basis. Wow. Just in the West Parry Sound area. Quite a few.
That's really great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else that you would like to ask Jackie?
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Woods.
Go ahead.
Not that I have a question. Just like to thank Jackie for the presentation. I think it was great. I myself, I know how important online studies are now. I'm actually doing online training myself. So any help that you can offer, I know is valued greatly. I know how hard it is trying to get things done when you got kids running around the house and having that quiet space. So I think the services that you're offering are very much appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Woods.
Okay, well, thanks. If there's nothing else, I will take this opportunity once again to thank you, Jackie, for coming and presenting to us, and we wish you all the best in what you're doing. I agree with everyone else who's spoken. It's extremely important, and I hope that folks in Whitestone will know about your service and will be able to take advantage of it. So thanks again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to partnering with you again, especially through the library. Thank you.
All right. We do have one planning matter to deal with this evening, which is an application to close and convey a shore road allowance. So could I get a mover and seconder, please, to move into committee of the whole?
I'll move, Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Woods, seconded by?
I'll second Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. It is 6:58 p.m. according to my clock on my computer here. Any discussion about this motion? Anyone opposed? If not, we are in committee of the whole. Thank you. We have what I think is a relatively simple application in front of us, accompanied by a report from our planner, John Jackson, who's on the line. John, would you like to introduce it?
Certainly, Your Worship. Thank you. As you described it pretty aptly, it's pretty straightforward and simple. The Brennans have 2 lots on the upper basin of Lake Wabash Cache, and the part of the frontage on the controlled high water mark is shore road allowance that is available for acquisition because it's not below the controlled watermark. They've applied, they've gotten the consent of joining neighbors, and there are no natural heritage features like fish habitat. So it's about as routine as it gets, Your Worship. Unless there's any questions, I see it as you described it, straightforward.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is a simple thing. I don't know, certainly I'll support it. But I was just wondering, when I look at the motions here, both to move into committee of the whole, and secondly, coming out of the meeting of the whole, I don't see anything here. Usually on these things, it says, subject to payment of whatever fees and payment of planning fees and this whole bunch of conditions associated with them. And I just don't see it on tonight's motion. So am I missing something, or are we changing, or am I all wet?
Your Worship, would you like
Go ahead, you can answer.
Yeah, I think actually, I haven't seen the motion, but Councillor Lamb, through Your Worship, is correct. It would be in accordance with the municipality's practices and procedures for such road closings. There is a fee, there's a legal fee, there's a fee for the actual substance, if you like. The amount will be very minimal because we're talking about 2 small slivers. But if the motion doesn't have that wording, subject to the practices and procedures of the municipality, it should be added.
Okay, thank you. The things that Councillor Lamb is looking for are normally appear with applications for land division. They do not normally appear on on acquisition of shore road allowances, simply because, at least in my recollection, there's a whole bunch of things that of course have to be met, but you'll appreciate that once this happens, then we're saying, if we pass this, we're saying we agree that you can purchase it, we're willing to close it and everything, and then there's a bunch of work that they have to do in order to get the thing registered. And so I'm not.
Yes, I agree, Your Worship. It almost goes without saying, but adding it can't hurt is probably what I think I hear Councillor Lamb saying. Like there's usually like
I just don't see anything here. Like, maybe I'm wrong. I usually it says, it doesn't even say as per. Maybe I'm looking at matters arising out of the committee of the whole. But anyway,
Well,
I'm used to seeing something.
That's where it is. That's where it would have to go.
But it just says we have no objection, right?
Okay,
So it doesn't say, yeah. Anyway.
In the if you go back to Mr. Jackson's report, it says it is recommended at the very end of it. It's recommended that the council of the corporation of the municipality of Whitestone have no objection to the stopping up and selling those portions of the shore road allowance in front of lots 14 and 15 of Plan 42M-625 and described as parts 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, and 5 of reference plan 42R16373 as applied for by John and Lynn Brennan, subject to the practices and procedures of the municipality for closing shore road allowances. So if you would like, we could add that on for to the motion when it is
Yeah, I think
is
I think it
presented.
should
Would you
be,
like
yeah.
would you like to do that? All right, we'll
Yeah.
we'll when we come out of committee of the whole and present the motion, we will tack that on.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments about this? All right, well, hearing none, I believe we can then entertain a motion to reconvene into the regular meeting.
I'll so move, Council McEwen.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just looking for what happened to my screen here, but I guess it doesn't matter. Okay, moved by Councillor McEwen, seconded by
I'll second Councillor Woods.
Councillor Woods, that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone reconvene into regular council at whatever the time is, 7:04 p.m. Any objection to that motion? Okay, thank you. Hearing none, I will declare it carried. We're back into regular session. And the motion that we have in front of us is as follows. I'll read it to you and then I'll ask for a mover and seconder. Whereas an application has been filed by John and Lynn Brennan. And by the way, Madam Clerk, there is no E on Lynn. For the closing and acquisition of the shore road allowance on lots 14 and 15, plan 2-625. That is actually, sorry. The plan is 42R. No, it's 42M. It's an M plan. Sorry. 42M-625. Once again, just as a typo in the motion that's in your package. Being parts 3, 4, and 5, 42R-16373 or 378 in the geographic township of Mackenzie, now the municipality of Whitestone, district of Parry Sound. And whereas there are no official plan conflicts, environmental concerns, or planning issues with respect to this application, now therefore be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Whitestone has no objection to the closure and acquisition of the shore road allowance on lots 14 and 15, plan 42M-625, being parts 3, 4, and 5, 42R-16373, geographic township of Mackenzie, district of Parry Sound, as applied for by John and Lynn Brennan, and then subject to the practices and procedures of the municipality for closing shore road allowances. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please?
I'll move it, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you. Seconded by?
I'll second Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Woods. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, could you read the last line that you added again?
I just added the words subject to the practices and procedures of the municipality for closing shore road allowances.
Should it say practices, procedures, and fees?
It can if you wish. It's kind of a given because they don't get it registered if they don't pay them. But yeah, go ahead if you want.
And just add fees.
All right. Subject to the practices and procedures of the municipal and fees of the municipality. I'll make a note here, but for closing shore road allowances. All right then. Any further discussion? I will ask our clerk to call the roll for this, please.
Councillor Gore Matthews,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor McEwen,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mayor.
That's carried. Okay, well, thank you for that. We have no public meeting for this evening. We do have a consent agenda, which is item 12, and it consists of 2 items. There are both sets of council meetings. The first one for the special meeting that was held on March 29th, 2021, and the second one is for the regular council minutes of April 6th. And then there is the unfinished business that's listed on page 4 of the agenda. So are there any of these items that you wish to pull out for further discussion? Any questions or comments? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as follows. Whereas Council of Municipality Whitestone has reviewed the consent agenda consisting of 12.1 council and committee meeting minutes, 12.1.1 the council minutes of the minutes of the special council meeting of March 29th, 2021, and 12.1.2, which are the minutes of the regular council meeting of April 6th, 2021, and 12.2 unfinished business. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone hereby receives and or approves the items contained in the consent agenda dated April 19th, 2021. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please?
I'll move, Councillor McEwen.
Thank you. Seconded by?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Gore Matthews. Is there any discussion or objection to this motion? Okay, hearing none, I will declare it carried. And there are no matters arising from the consent agenda. Which brings us to accounts payable. And anyway, sorry. Keep losing my Zoom screen here for some reason, but okay, so could I get a mover and seconder, please, that the council or the municipality of Whitestone approve accounts payable in the amount of $47,887.86 and payroll in the amount of $23,320.53 for payment.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Gore Matthews.
I'll second Councillor Lamb.
Seconded by Councillor Lamb. Any discussion about the payables? It sounds like there isn't. Is that the case? I guess it's a relatively short list tonight. Okay. Well, if there's anyone have any objection to approving? Oh, sorry. We usually call a vote on payables, don't we? Madam Clerk, if you don't mind.
Councillor Gore Matthews,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor McEwen,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes. Okay, thank you. That motion is carried. Right, so that brings us down to item 14, which is bylaws. And the bylaw that we have here today is to authorize an agreement between the municipality and Her Majesty, as represented by the Office of the Fire Marshal. And this agreement that you have here, which, as you can see, goes on to some length, is simply for the purpose of receiving that $4,800 that we told you about a few weeks ago. It was a special grant that the Office of the Fire Marshal offered to assist in automation and facilitate training during the pandemic. So it's really pandemic-related funds. We submitted an application, the fire chief did, and after a little bit of back and forth, they agreed to it. And so this agreement is in front of us, and this is necessary for us to proceed with spending the money, getting the things that we said we were going to use it for, and then hopefully getting reimbursed. So with that by way of a preamble, could I get a mover and seconder, please, that bylaw 15-2021, being a bylaw to authorize entering into an agreement with the Office of the Fire Marshal, be read a first and second time this 19th day of April 2021, and further read a third time, passed and properly signed and sealed this 19th day of April 2021, and numbered bylaw 15-2021. Who would like to move that?
I'll move, Councillor McEwen.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen, seconded by?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Gore Matthews. Any discussion? Is there any opposition to this motion being passed? Okay, hearing none, I will declare it carried. Thank you. That brings us then to item 15, which is staff reports. The first is a report from our building department. It's the regular quarterly report for the first quarter of 2021. And I think we will, I think our CBO is going to join us to speak to that or to answer any questions. But before he does that, could I get a mover and seconder, please, to that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone hereby receives report building-2021-03, building department update and building permit activity January 1st to March 31st, 2021 for information.
I'll move it, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you. Seconded by?
I'll second, Councillor Woods.
Councillor Woods. Is Tyler with us, Madam CAO?
I believe he is. I think he's on mute. Tyler, can you unmute? Let me just go check. He's in the other room. Hold on.
Is it possible that something you've got a presentation that is stuck open? Because I am not getting, like, all I can see on my screen is I can see a box for the host, and I can see a thing in the middle that says join the conversation. And normally I would get rid of that by going back to by just clicking on my Zoom screen, but it doesn't seem to want to go back for some reason. So I don't know. Not exactly sure what's happening. Unless I'm somehow in full screen or something, but is there, what is everybody else seeing on their screen? Can I ask?
Basically, right now, it's you, Mr. Mayor. And up at the top, I have Councillor
Oh.
Lamb, Corum, and yourself. Visual.
Same here.
Okay, well,
It's a part screen. There's about a 4-inch gap on the right, but I think that's for participants and such for you.
yeah, no, and that's, I did. Well, I don't know. I seem to have lost my screen, but anyway, I'll carry on for the time being with it. We'll probably have to take a short recess, and I will have to log out of the call and log back in again because it looks like it's my instance of Zoom is fouled up somehow. But if Tyler is available, Tyler, please, if you have any comments that you'd like to make about your presentation, please go ahead. And
good evening, everyone. Sorry, we're just having some technical difficulties. Yes, so we've been very busy during the winter. We inputted 439 permits into our database. So we were able to update some of the files. Some of them will be closed. Some of them are closed already. But it did allow me to get a good handle on what we have. We are going to be sending out some letters. We're just going to have to reword them now a little bit differently with the orders that have recently been imposed by the province. I did just receive some more information from the Ontario Building Officials Association. And residential construction activities or projects and related services are permitted to keep going. There was a lot of confusion with that, but it appears they're still able to proceed, so which is good. We can still issue permits. Other than that, back earlier this winter, our local Parry Sound Muskoka Building Official Chapter had a meeting. The presenter was Cloud Permit. It's a cloud-based company that basically you can apply for a building permit. You can issue a building permit, and it keeps track of everything. Basically, it eliminates a lot of front counter visits. You conduct your inspections and it sends the information to the contractor or owner. Multiple users can get on it. So for example, say if I were to be on holidays, Chris from McKellar overlaps, he would be able to get on and carry on from where I left off. So and you can do it from anywhere. There's no little to no paperwork involved. So I was kind of interested in it. So I reached out to the company and got some more information. I forget what the gentleman's name was, Peter. Let's see here. Sorry, it must be back on my desk there. But anyways, I had one of the gentlemen from the company contact me, and we met for a couple hours, and it looks like a pretty interesting. It looks like pretty interesting software, and especially now where it's getting tougher to apply with the stay-at-home orders and so on. Basically, all of this could be done online to apply for a permit or inspection or anything. So I did include a package at the back that just kind of touches on some of the key features. So I thought that might be of some interest.
Okay, thank you very much, Tyler. Are there any questions or comments on Tyler's report?
Yeah, Councillor Lamb.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Tyler. A good job. Very interested in the database, so I encourage you to keep building it. I think that's wonderful. Cuts down on paper, and we have a record and that kind of stuff. Thank you for also this iCloud thing is of tremendous benefit to us. I don't know whether there are other systems or whether we've done our due diligence but from what I've read, I mean, bingo, this is exactly the way of the world. And I encourage you, and we'll certainly support. I haven't got it right in front of me, but I think it was like $5,000 and $1,000 for setup or something. But certainly I encourage you to, again, have that in the budget that we're going to look at on May the 3rd or so, because I think, this is exactly what we need. So again, I encourage you to follow through on that. And I like the idea that you've got letters going out, and we'll continue to kind of clean up, our back permits and outstanding permits and things like that. And again, so in my mind, you're doing a good job, and I want to encourage you to keep going, because all this is really good stuff. So thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'll just comment. Councilor McEwen and I was in the other day for another matter, and actually a week ago or so, and I was encouraged by the setup he's got now in terms of opening space up for closing the file and closing permits and stuff. So as Councilor Lamb said, dittos to him thanks to him for pursuing as much as he can. I know he's a busy looking guy by the pile of orders to go through on his desk there. So appreciate him.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else for our CBO? Well, if not, oh, I'm sorry. I guess I didn't call the question on that motion to receive his report, did I? Anybody objects to receiving the report now that you've received it? Okay, well, we will declare that motion carried, and thank you once again, Tyler.
Thank you, everyone.
That brings us to item 15.2, which deals with electronic waste collection. And there is a motion, which I will read to you, that the Council of the Mist Valley Whitestone receives report PW for Public Works dash 2021
Oh, I gotta clean up in
03
there. Yeah. just leave it.
electronic waste collection for information. And further, that the Council of the Mist Valley Whitestone authorize the mayor and the CAO clerk to enter into an agreement with Quantum Life Cycle Partners LP for the electronic waste collection system substantially in the form presented as attachment A to report PW 2021-03. Would someone like to move that?
I'll move, Councilor McEwen.
Seconded by?
I'll second, Councillor Woods.
So I guess I have a question that I should have asked. I didn't realize that the second part was on this motion, but my question is, have we looked at what other possible systems there are that would do similar sorts of things? It sounds, the way this motion is presented, we're essentially authorizing this to proceed without it being entered into the budget. In other words, it's a pre-budget approval. So I guess I'd like to be certain that we're not just taking the first system that comes to our attention, if in fact there are other ones, and I don't know. Can you comment on this, Madam CAO, or is Tyler still around?
Actually, our Public Works Manager, David Creaser, is online, on the phone. David, if you could unmute.
Sorry, yes, not. Okay, you know what? I'm sorry. I will let him. I'll let David present his report if he wants, and then we can decide what to do with it. David, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have technical difficulties myself. I do apologize for that. This report does outline the changes in the electronic program that began in January of 2021. With this new program, the changes from the old program are that the producers are individually accountable for the financial responsibility of their electronics. They're required to basically own it after the consumer discards it. With this, there are 14 of these producer responsibility organizations in Ontario that have been identified in this program. Of these 14, most of them are in the southern Ontario, and they're just too far away to service us. The closest one would be in Barrie, the one that would actually deal with the materials, the electronics. They would receive them, and then they would recycle them. So Barrie would be the closest. This is Quantum Life Cycle. They would that's given us the recommended agreement here. There's also EPRA who responded. Of the 14, we had the 3 respond Quantum Electronics. Quantum Electronic Partners, EPRA, which is Electronic Producer Responsibility Association. They were the previous people under OES that actually serviced us. They also gave us a proposal, and then electronic recycling services, they were even further away. So the costs for them were higher to service us. So looking at it, our neighbors, some of our neighbors are using EPRA, which was the previous OES, and they did get a different deal than us, different offers. I talked to some of them. They weren't much different, but Quantum did offer us the sea container, basically at no cost, which we did want in our sea container. After talking to our tenants, they said the sea container is preferred because it protects the electronics from the elements, and it also is able to be picked up without any equipment. So they can come in and just hook onto the sea container and take it away without having to be loaded or any additional work involved. EPRA only offered us a totes, no sea container, but they said that they would give us some money. EPRA would be the transporter. They would pick up the material if EPRA were to service us. They would then take it to Quantum in Barrie, and then Quantum would then recycle the material. So they would essentially be a middleman at that point. So Quantum is the one that all our material is destined to. If EPRA were our servicer, there's just not that many. There's just not that many people in the north that that many pros that could offer us anything. It's in the south is the bulk of the materials and the electronics. So yeah, this is the best deal that we could come up with. I don't think there's a better deal that will come along in the short term, but this will get us serviced if we do wish to continue with the electronics. And this contract does give us options to terminate fairly easily if we wish to. So I do recommend that we go ahead with this agreement.
Okay, thank you. So in summary, this is the best of the ones that are available. You're satisfied?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is the best. We did reach out. I talked to everyone involved. I called, and this is the people that are interested in servicing us. And this is the best. And I talked to our tenants, and yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there other questions for David? Okay, well, it sounds like everyone's happy with this. So we do have a mover and seconder. It was moved by Councillor McEwen, seconded by Councillor Woods, that we received the report for information and that the CAO clerk and I be authorized to enter into an agreement with Quantum. Are you ready for the question? I will ask our clerk to read the roll, please.
Councillor Gore Matthews,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor McEwen,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
and Mayor Comrie.
Yes. Okay, thank you. That's approved. Item 15.3 is an update on the progress against our strategic plan. So this is for information. I will ask for a mover and seconder. Thank you, Madam CEO. Oh, sorry, are you still open? Thank you. I will ask for a mover and seconder that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone receive memo 2019 Whitestone Strategic Action Plan, a 2021 update on progress of initiatives and action items for information.
I'll move it, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you. Seconded by
I'll second it, Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Woods. Discussion. I could invite our CAO to give any introductory remarks if she would like.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be brief. This was intended to just be a bit of a report card. It was something I actually planned to do last year. So, every year we want to look closely to make sure that the action items are being attended to. And as with others, I was distracted with the pandemic and other things that were happening in the office and the community. But it is a 2-year review, and maybe not surprisingly, there's a lot council can be very proud of. There's a lot of initiatives that are completed. There are some that are ongoing, and of course, there's a few. Anything that's with an asterisk has not been started for various reasons, and is still pending. And a couple, for example, are under communication. There's the communication policy, and that's a 2021 initiative for myself and others in the office. The newsletter, council decided to just put that on hold for now, and that's moving to more of an online presence. And the revisiting of the town hall meetings, that's something that council hasn't really addressed yet. And for quite obvious reasons, there's not a way that unless we want to Zoom meetings, that we would have a town hall, although it's still an option at council's direction. So that's how this is laid out. In terms of fiscal responsibility, everything is ongoing. Under management systems, there's a few things that we definitely need to attend to. Maintenance and infrastructure, that's something that is really taken off. So the road need study was complete. The private road grant protocol continues to be supported by council with a 3% increase this year. Regulatory and warning sign work is underway, and we are working on a public land strategy. And council may recall that just about the time that the pandemic started, we were about to re-advertise for some property that the municipality considered surplus. So that remains on hold. And I won't go through everything. I hope it's laid out in a way that folks can understand, and with the understanding that there's still some work to do on some of these initiatives, and that will be looked at this year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you for that introduction. Any discussion?
Yeah, Councillor Lamb.
Go ahead.
Yeah, in reading this, it's kind of nice to read it again. I think council did some pretty doggone good work a couple years ago when we did this, and in reading it over, it really is pretty good. So I don't intend to go through any of the details. I just encourage staff and the CAO to carry on fulfilling many of these things. What I would ask for us to do is in the upcoming newsletter in May, to reference this document, to sort of a little paragraph, did you know, we have a strategic plan that was done in 2019, and with the following 5 elements or whatever, and please go to our website, take a look at it, or download it, or do something. And maybe we even post, our accomplishments and up-to-date status on all this, because I think it's worthy of that. And I think there's a lot of people that kind of don't see this kind of document and don't appreciate it, and will be happy to know that it does exist in our community, and that we just don't sort of deal with whatever the next issue in the door is, because this is really our roadmap to success of the municipality in Whitestone. So it's a good document, and it's nice to see again. And let's put something in that will help guide people to it, and I think people will be impressed with it. So, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I think that's a great suggestion. We had talked earlier in the year about trying to produce some sort of an annual report on 2021, because there were a number of things that got done that I think, as Councillor Lamb says, we could be proud of, and should probably draw to people's attention, especially considering the fact that the year was so occupied with the pandemic. And I think under those circumstances, we did indeed get a lot done. So anyway, that's a very good suggestion. Are there other questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just have a comment.
Go ahead.
Councillor Lamb, I know when we put this together in 2015, it was a heck of a big job. And I think it was done at the beginning of a term, so it was a lot of work for especially a new rookie like myself at the time. Then updating it again, I guess in 2018 or 19, whenever we did the last one. That's a great thing to do for each council as forward. And the initiatives and action items following with the report itself, that's of course the important part of the whole thing. And to see the report with the ongoing improvements and changes and all the work that is done, it's gratifying. And it's always pleasing to see references made to the strategic plan when we're looking at different issues month to month. And I know it's referenced pretty regularly by staff reports, and it's used on an ongoing basis. So I think it's very worthwhile, and it's well documented. And as Councillor Lamb says, it's good to get it out in public eyes. I think a lot of people are pretty aware of it. The actual plan itself is on the web, so that's accessible. And I've had comments from several people who've looked at some aspect of it from time to time. So very significant project to keep going. And I think I hand it to staff for getting it to this point and the update today. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anything else?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Councillor Gore Matthews.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I thought it was a good exercise to review it and just kind of refresh our minds on some of the areas that we may have forgotten about, and just kind of helps you refocus on what to aim for the next term. So yeah, I thought it was a good exercise to have it come in the spring, and it's kind of refreshing to have a new year to start and focus on some of the things that we can work on. So thank you.
Great, thanks. Anything else anyone would like to say about this?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Woods.
Go ahead.
I'd like to thank staff for this. The update of the progress, the way it's all laid out. It's really easy to read and pick out the things that, we've been working on as a municipality and how well we're doing. I think it's a great document. I'd just like to thank staff for all their work that they put into laying it out like this, making it easy for a guy like me to read.
Okay, well, thank you. If there are no further comments, I will ask. Well, I'll call the question by way of asking if anyone has any objection to us approving the motion to receive this. And I will say I've made a note that as an action item that we will find ways to report this to the community, and hopefully we can get it up on our website and a reference in the newsletter and so on, so that everyone is aware of what has been accomplished. Is there anyone objecting to us approving this receipt of this? Okay, hearing none, I'll declare that motion carried. And speaking of items in our facility plan, that brings us to item 16. And there is a proposal in front of you to create or to approve the creation of what we're calling an environmental stewardship committee, for want of a better term, I guess. Perhaps some of you know that other municipalities have them. Committees that take charge of this kind of work. Anyway, there is a fairly lengthy motion, and what I'll do is I'll accept the responsibility for that because I actually drafted the motion. But what I'll do is I'll see if we can get a mover and seconder for it. I'll read it to you first, then I'll see if we can get a mover and seconder, and then I will ask Councillor Gorham Matthews, who I consider to be the champion of this particular effort, to speak to it. So the motion is as follows. It's in 5 parts. First, that Council for the Municipality of Whitestone receives the Council briefing note entitled Formation of an Environmental Stewardship Committee for information. And secondly, that Council approve the creation of a standing committee with terms of reference and composition as set out in Appendix A. Third, that representatives of the organizations named in Appendix A be solicited as members of the committee. Part 4, that an additional sum of $3,000 be included in the 2021 operating budget to cover the costs of water quality testing. And 5, that the Council for the Municipality of Whitestone requests a report periodically on the committee's activities and recommendations, which I guess didn't need to be there because it's in the terms of reference anyway, I think. But anyway, if I could get a mover and seconder, and then we'll have some discussion. Are you prepared to move this, Councillor Gorham Matthews?
Yes, I am.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second Councilor McEwen.
Thank you. It's open for discussion.
Yeah, if I may just say a few words to start.
Go ahead.
So one of our objectives in our strategic plan is to really cooperate more with our lake associations. They're a valuable resource in our community, and most of the membership already live on the lakes, and are doing a lot within each of their associations. And what would be nice is if we can kind of link some of those associations together for information sharing, a little bit of resource sharing, so that we can really have all of our associations on the same page and be aware of all the opportunities that are out there in order to support our lakes and keeping them healthy. So this plan would get a representative from the lake associations. I've spoken to a few, and all of them are pretty excited to have an environmental issue being looked at by the council, and having a voice in council to share some of their knowledge with us as well on good practices for keeping lakes healthy.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments?
Am I on, Councillor Lamb?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry. I never know when I'm muted or not, but anyway, yeah, no, I think this is a great idea, and I thank Councillor Gorham Matthews and yourself, Mr. Mayor, for bringing this to our attention and doing the work you've done so far on it. So I'm very supportive of it. What I'm not sure of is in terms of a committee, is this going to be like a new committee of council and all the terms and references and conditions and blah, 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 of our other committees of council, or are we seeing this kind of as an ad hoc, it's going to run, I just need an explanation of it, because I'm not sure what the requirements are, if any, for setting up a brand new committee of council, if that's what this is, or is it anything different than that? So it's just an inquiry more than anything. Thank you.
Well, I guess I could try to answer it, and perhaps Councillor Gorham Matthews would have some other thoughts, but I mean, I see this as a standing committee of council. So the membership of the committee would be appointed by council. And it would operate, it would have to produce minutes and reports of its activity and that kind of thing. So in that sense, it would be a committee of council, like the Recreation Committee, or we don't have a lot of committees, by the way, but that was the intention of setting it up. The thing that makes it perhaps different from some committees is that the composition of it is designed to leverage a fair bit of volunteer effort that we have in the community already. So many of our lake associations have people, and there are others in the community who are not, it's not just lake associations, but there are many folks who are passionate about the environment and are willing to volunteer their time and effort and expertise to do things like water quality testing. And so those, there are some organizations. The Whitestone Conservation Association is one that I think you're all aware of things that they do. Watershed certainly does, and some of the others do it to a lesser extent, but they and some of them have some of them have a fair investment of their own in equipment, which I believe they would be willing to share with other lakes who wanted to participate. But the whole idea is that you're leveraging volunteer effort and expertise in the community to do things that we probably would not, we might have difficulty justifying hiring staff or contractors or whatever to do. And as Councillor Gorham Matthews mentioned, seems to be a fair bit of enthusiasm for this amongst folks that I've talked to. So I think what'll happen, of course, is that in terms of the composition of the committee, there would likely be a core of one or two people from the council who would participate in an ongoing basis for the term of council. And there might be some turnover of some of the other members based on their, availability and so on. But if somebody, it's a little bit open-ended, but if someone, for example, who's a representative of one of the lake associations decides that they can't continue to do it, then probably they would come back to us and suggest someone who could replace them, and then council would appoint that person. And that in fact is not different from the way any other committee that we have works. The volunteers on the committee come and go, but they are members of the committee, and they would be able to vote on resolutions and all that kind of thing. And they're initially when they join, they would have to be approved by council, I'm assuming, unless council were to delegate that to responsibility to the committee. But anyway, I don't think we're supposed to. That's probably the way that's probably the way it would work. So anyway, that's my thought on the matter.
Mr. Mayor, just a comment.
Yes.
I certainly appreciate the conservationist sort of approach to, looking at the lakes it comes up numerous times throughout the term as a concern by ratepayers that there's not enough done by maybe the municipality or enough focus or leadership. This is probably a big step to gradually bring in our partners with the cottage lake associations. I know the past summer when we had the algae bloom type scenario and water quality becomes question generally. I think we certainly have support of a lot of ratepayers to look at this type of initiative. Thank you.
Okay. Other comments? Well, if there aren't any further questions or comments, I will ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Councillor Gore Matthews,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor McEwen, you're on mute.
He's muted.
You're on mute, Councillor McEwen.
Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor
There
Woods
he is.
Yes.
and Mayor Comrie.
Yes. Thank you. That motion is carried. And the next thing you will hear, I guess, in due course is another motion to appoint some people, and we'll get on with communication with the lake associations, hopefully in time to get things up and running before the summer. Next item I have is correspondence. And I'm just going to try and. Oh, sorry.
Another item. Yes. For Pitchin' Day.
Oh,
Earth
I'm
Day
sorry.
celebration. Sorry, that's my item too.
I'm sorry, Councillor Gore Matthews. I apologize. The problem with that is that I didn't have a specific order paper so on it here, but please go ahead.
Yeah, so I know last year we didn't do anything. We really didn't know much about COVID, and we didn't even feel comfortable picking up garbage on the side of the road last year. So this year, I think everybody understands the rules and how to stay safe. And if we could encourage everyone to do their part within their social circles to clean up the roadsides, I think there's some interest in doing that. I know our public works manager has already provided bags at the landfill sites for people to pick up, and as well we can have some at the office for people as well. So I believe that staff already has a flyer prepared to advertise all this that can go out tomorrow if council approves that we support doing an Earth Day type celebration or Pitchin' Day type thing to clean up your areas.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion about that one? All right then. Now we can come to correspondence, and under correspondence, there is a fair list of items which is on page 5 of your agenda. What we normally do is we ask councilors which, if any, of these they would like to pull out for further discussion or for action, and so I will just go down the list. Item A, which is an item about, it's about the Cashagaba Lake Dam. So I'm going to just ask if we can pull that just for 2 seconds so that I can give you a little update on explanation of what's going on, which you may not have necessarily got from the actual letter that's in correspondence. Anybody want to talk about item B, the town of Caledon's resolution regarding suicide and crisis prevention? Anybody want to talk about C, which is Hudson's resolution regarding fire departments?
Mr. Mayor, don't we normally just ask who wants what to come out versus going down them all? But
Well, all right, you can do that if you want.
yeah, well, it doesn't matter to me. It's just I'm trying to
No, no.
shorten the time.
Okay. I'm going to do the same thing if I may with MNRF item D. Anybody, what? Tell me what ones you would like to pull out. Anybody for E? Anybody for F? No? Do you? Okay,
Which one?
call out a number. Or a letter, I mean.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Woods.
Yes?
I got two that I wouldn't mind saying something about. O and S.
Oh, sorry. Oh, what was the first one? F?
S. O and
S.
S.
S is in Sam, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, the Carling resolution. Okay, sorry. I understand. Okay, so O and S. Here, I'm going to do it another way. This will be faster. So we've had O and S requested. Who else wants to request something?
Nobody?
I'm actually going to add T to the list too.
Yes, I was going to ask for T also. Thank you.
Yeah. So anybody going once, anybody else have any other ones that you want to discuss or hear about? All right. So the list that I have is A, D, O, which is Mr. Hickey's email. If that hadn't come up, I would have put it on the list anyway. The S is about monarch butterflies. And T is about OPP matters, including the detachment board. That's mainly that's the main subject of it, is the OPP detachment board proposals. So monarch butterfly. All right. So that's the list I have. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. So can I get a mover and seconder for this? Whereas the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone has reviewed the correspondence items as listed on page 5 of the April 19th, 2021 Council agenda. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Council receive the correspondence items for information with the following extracted for further discussion or action. Can I get a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move, Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Wood, seconded by
I'll second Councillor Lamb.
Councillor Lamb. Okay, thank you. Okay, so first on the list is the Cashagaba Lake Dam, this letter that came from WSP, which is an engineering consulting firm that are consultants to the MNR. And what they're telling you, in essence, is that they have completed or are nearing the completion of what is called a class environmental assessment under the Environmental Protection Act, with respect to the possible replacement of that dam. And you may have heard me mention it on occasion, because I have been involved with this project since I first became aware of it. And you may also have noticed that in our chart of accounts, there is actually, for some reason that's not clear to me, there is an account there with that name on it. It's a reserve that was established some years ago when the ratepayers who are on Bolger and Cashagaba Lakes were concerned that they might have to replace the dam, or that it might have to be replaced. So anyway, all I want to tell you is that right now where they are in the process is at the public consultation stage. So the consultants have done their work of the environmental assessment. They have made some recommendations to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, and they have chosen some of the options to proceed. And so they're now asking the public if, particularly the people who would be involved on those lakes and us as the municipality, if we have any comments. In order to make comments, you would need to probably see the information that these reports, which are quite lengthy and quite substantial, covering the environmental impact and the proposals for how the dam would be rebuilt and so on and so on. We do have all of that information, and I am happy to share it with anybody who wants it electronically. There is a window open for people to make comments to the ministry, as you can see in the letter, and that window closes on April 30th, so we don't have a lot of time, a couple of weeks, but anybody who wants to see it should ask, and we can make it available for you to look at. What will happen after that closes probably is that the Ministry of Natural Resources will come and ask us a question that they asked way back in, I don't know, 2009 or something like that, which was if they rebuild the dam, this is just a heads up for you, if they rebuild the dam, is the municipality willing to assume ownership of it as they did with the Watershed Dam? So anyway, that's all I have to say about this, but just to give you a heads up of where this is going. And by the way, the folks who are part of that Magnetowan pioneer group, that's the residents on Bolger, Cashagaba, and Whites Lake, who are affected by this whole thing, have got all the information on it. And I guess some of them may comment or not. I don't know. I haven't heard any feedback since this was issued. Okay, any comments and questions on that one?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor McEwen, do we have, are we in a situation where we should be sending in some kind of input into this with comments in cooperation with those lake groups? They're asking for comments. Are we on record as supporting the dam, but maybe not supporting the cost takeover of the dam, or where do we stand on that?
The only representations that we made, and there is a letter on file which the clerk drew to my attention recently that I had never seen but heard about because it preceded my time on council, but it's a letter from Chris Armstrong to the MNRF saying, in response to, I guess, an official request that had come through the district manager of the day, would we be willing to consider taking ownership of the dam? And the response to the letter is, yes, we would be willing to consider it, providing that there were some provisos, but one of them was that the MNR paid to have the dam reconstructed. And there were some, no, that's not a commitment. It's not a commitment beyond a commitment to consider doing what we thought they might ask. During the EA study portion, while the consultants were looking at it, they did come up with some proposals which involved simply sort of an interim remediation of the dam at a fairly minimal cost. And by the way, this isn't a cheap project because of the inaccessibility of the dam site. It's even worse than the Washkish one. It's a much smaller dam, mind you, but we're still talking, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to recreate a dam, I would guess. Maybe a couple $100,000. So anyway, and my response to those particular suggestions was that I didn't think unless we had some assurances that it would be a very long time before any significant work had to be done on the dam, we probably would not be willing to assume ownership of it, because we would potentially be assuming a liability that we would have to do something expensive down the road to fix it up again. So what they are effectively proposing is something that would have probably a 50 to 60 year lifetime with minimal maintenance. It's a concrete proper structure. This is a fixed weir. It's not, has no control structure on it, but it would be something that would stand the test of the time and not have us having to go out every year and do repairs to it or that kind of thing. But that's, once again, there was no commitment. To answer your original question, should we be providing a response? I think we should. I still personally have to read through. I haven't read through all the final documents to see if there are any sort of ringers or surprises in it. I have seen some of the interim ones, so I kind of knew where it was going. But once again, if anyone else would like to take a look at these documents, we could. I'm more than happy to share them with you, and we can also, or if any member of the public wants to look at them, for that matter, it's a public consultation as far as I'm concerned. So then I guess those who have an interest in it might want to provide a response, some sort of response. And I'm not suggesting that we make a commitment, but we could say, hey, wait a minute, you didn't think about this, or So please let me know if you want to. Under normal circumstances, we would probably have some sort of a little task force would look at this. The unfortunate thing is I got caught by surprise by this coming out with such a short window, because there's been a long period of time since last fall when I didn't hear peep out of anybody about it, and I thought maybe they were waiting to have when they could actually hold a public meeting, which I had offered to do once we could get back into the community center, and then everybody could come in and take a look at the drawings and hear presentations from the consultants and all that kind of stuff. That's how this is normally done. But anyway, I'll leave it with you, unless you want to propose a specific action. So item D, which I promised would be real short, simply to let you know that about every 3 weeks or so, there is a meeting of a group called the Magnetowan River Watershed Communications Committee. And that name the committee was created by the Ministry of Natural Resources in Parry Sound District. And it was created partly in response to a delegation that we had 2 years ago with the Minister of Natural Resources, where we asked about proper watershed modeling for the whole Magnetowan River system. And there's things going on that. And someday when we have time in a meeting, I will put together a report for you and bring in some of the people who've worked on it and let them tell you, because there's been a lot of really good work done on this, but by people in Whitestone, by the way, not by not by I'm not referring to what the Ministry of Natural Resources has done, but one of the things that they did was they decided to establish this committee, and the purpose is for them to be able to communicate events that are happening and try to improve forecasting and warnings and so on. And so you can see, if you look at that, you'll see that there's some information about how water levels are going up and what predictions are for flooding and that sort of thing based on anticipated weather. And we're now just about in the, we're just in what would normally in a normal year would be sort of the worst risk of that sort of thing happening. And we've emerged by and large unscathed, I would say. And I don't think, so I don't think there's any bad news in this, but just to let you know that they do have these meetings. I usually represent us, and our CAO also tends to come and listen to them. They're Zoom meetings. They don't last very long, but they do present whatever information they have and they take questions. So, and by the way, I am trying to get it that the official modeling, the stuff that they share with everybody, to be extended to include Watershed, which is really the only big lake that we have that's in that system. So, but that's a subject for another day. So that's all item D is about. Any questions about that one? All right. That brings us to item O, which was the email from Doug Hickey concerning the proposed expansion or renovation of the municipal office. So, and I do have a little recognizing the validity of his comment that there wasn't very much information provided to sort of justify what this is about. I do have a little, a couple of slides on, with some points that I can present to you. So we can do it. I can either do that first, or you can, other folks can speak first. Would you like me to go quickly through this? It's a bit of an update because we did have a meeting of the task force that council created to deal with this subject this last Friday. So.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Woods, I'd say go ahead if you got an update ready, because I know we did have that meeting the other day. If you want to talk to it, by all means.
Okay, thank you. No, I don't know. What I'm seeing on my screen is a tad large. Can I? Oh, that's because I'm in full screen. All right. Madam CAO, are you're controlling the slides, are you? I think she is. Okay, can you, it's clipping. Sorry, can you cause it to present in a smaller window? It's trying to.
Yes, I am controlling the slides. I'll see what I can do. Yes, one moment.
If you can just make the view a little smaller, I would appreciate it. So, because otherwise people won't be able to read it, and I don't. And in fact, I won't be able to read it either.
Is
that view that view is okay.
Okay.
If you just would go down. I know we got the warning about viruses on the internet, but I don't think there are any. All right, so this is just in the form of some questions and answers. This is my favorite, my personal favorite ways of highlighting a few things. So the first one is, what's the problem we're trying to solve? And the point I'm trying to make here is that you know, the current building, people have argued, well, the current building's only 10 years old. Unfortunately, there wasn't as much thought given to the functionality of the layout, and there was basically no, there was really no allowance for any expansion. It was based, the size of it was based on the number of staff that we had at the time, and that was, so there is not a lot of wiggle room. It's a nice enough looking facility from the outside and everything, and the fire department part of it is pretty good, but the office itself is not properly configured really for today's requirements. Next slide. What is it that we need that we don't have right now? Well, probably the biggest thing is a physical separation of space accessible to the public from the staff workspaces. And that's a requirement under normal occupational and health requirements of the Ministry of Labor, normally speaking. But you know, and you can get away with various departures from it under certain circumstances. But I think the pandemic has highlighted the need for this, and it will persist as a requirement after the pandemic is over. We still need to have, we need to be able to have areas where people who come into the office to talk to staff about planning matters, building matters, taxation matters, they may need to spread out files and drawings and various things, can meet without having to go through the general office into the back or the kitchen or whatever. They need some confidentiality sometimes what they're discussing. They need they need quiet, and they need, you know, space to spread out their materials. There's an issue related to the lunchroom, which we have been using for a lot of things over the years because it's sort of the only real meeting space in the building. But other than the fire department, the training room and the fire department space, but it's really not even adequate as a break room, never mind for meetings or for the occasional staff that come in, consultants and other people who are here and doing work for us. We don't have any space for those people. And of course, we do anticipate that we will require probably not a large number of additional permanent space as time goes on, permanent staff as time goes on, but we will need temporary staff from time to time to do things like communications and I think we can expect that we will have greater planning, land use planning responsibilities as time goes on. They're going to create demand for space. Number 4. So people are asking, well, why can't municipal staff just work from home? This is really not practical for an operation as small as Whitestone's, with the small number of staff we have and the fact that people cover for each other and assist each other on many of the activities that go on. And the ones that are specialized, like our CBO, for example, and our treasurer, our planning department, and so on, they do in fact need to have need a place where they can have meetings with people, and trying to carry the files that they have with them and you know, property files and things of that sort for planning items, and try to take them to some other building or some other space is just not practical. And some of these meetings involving zoning and things will require multiple staff members to come to them. So it's larger organizations that have staff who have specialized functions quite often can go do things, and we can do them from home, or you can find some other workspace for them. They don't need to access things in the office. There is a point about teamwork, which I think is important in our organization. And finally, we don't have a lot of our records are not automated, and we don't have the necessary facilities to automate all these things that staff do to support each other and support the public from work from home. And we could certainly strive to get there, or to get more automation over time. I think that is a part of our strategic plan. And you will see that some other larger municipalities, like the town of Brantford, for example, has a presentation coming up on what they've been able to do by way of getting, getting work from home on a more permanent basis. But they have many, many more staff, and their functions tend to be highly centralized. So they'll have one or two in a building department, for example, where they have 20 people. They'll have, one or two people that stay in the office all the time, and the rest of them are out in the field doing inspections and stuff anyway, and don't need a lot of office space. But even then, they would have 2 or 3 desks that they could use on a temporary basis, and they had lots of meeting space when they have to come in and hold a group meeting. So we're just not in that league, unfortunately, and so our capability to take advantage of work from home is very limited. Number 5. Question was, if I do this now, I don't think that we can reopen the municipal office to the public once the pandemic subsides, as we would probably want to do, without at least reconfiguring the existing space. And this year, while the office does remain effectively closed to the public due to the pandemic, seems to me to be the ideal time to complete the necessary renovations. Number 6. So people were asking, well, if we proceed with this, is this going to jeopardize the expansion of the Whitestone and Area Nursing Station? And I believe the answer is no. We do, in our capital budget for this year, have an allowance to cover the detailed design of that expansion project. But the work is actually planned to proceed in 2022. And it looks as if we have a good chance of getting significant external funding to cover the cost of that. As everybody knows, there are costs of materials and so on are going up. So, that when we get to the detailed design, the cost may also have gone up, but we do have some some significant potential assistance with this from external sources that unfortunately are not available for a municipal office. And finally, number 7. This is the last slide. Just to update you, we did, what's the process we're following and where are we? As you know, there is a task force which consists of Councillor Woods, myself, the CAO, and our CBO, and that was created by council back when council approved looking into this and coming up with some plans and estimates. That task force met last Friday with the architect and consultant, and we did a review of the latest set of plans that she had prepared and the associated cost estimates, which admittedly would have to be redone because of escalating material costs that you've all heard about. We asked her to consider alternatives that would involve reconfiguration of the existing space envelope to meet the sort of immediate requirements, what I would call the configuration parts or reconfiguration parts, but to try to come up with a reduced cost than the $700,000, which was the original estimate for the full renovation or the full expansion. And the task force, when we get something back from our consultant, then we'll have another meeting and see what she's been able to come up with. It likely will not occur before May 3rd, unfortunately, because it's not too far away. So council will still need to include something for this project in the 2021 capital budget. Of course, the actual no money will flow until council approves the plans and the expenditure at the point when a contract is ready to let. So this is not one of these things where if it's in the budget, people just go and get to start working on it. And regardless of the outcome, the funds involved will end up most likely being borrowed, and so the tax rate that is proposed currently in the budget as it stands, the 1% tax rate, it isn't really affected by this, in the sense it's not affected this year because money would end up being borrowed, and so there would then be the operating charge to service that would appear again, most likely starting next year, assuming we were able to do it this year. So that gives you a little bit of an update. It's an attempt clearly to suggest that there is in fact a real requirement. I don't believe do nothing is an option, but I think the task force was concerned that we not, that we try to find something that was more modest as an interim step, and more modest than the $700,000 that had been suggested at budget time, and see what we can do. And that, of course, doesn't mean that there won't be, the plans that were originally presented perhaps would have lasted us for another 10 or 15 years before the subject would come up again. And if we do, take an interim step, then of course that may come up again in sooner than 10 or 15 years, depending on how things unfold. But anyway, I leave it to you. That's all I wanted to say about this. Just put a little information on the table to at least address some of the concerns, and I'll open it up now to other councillors who have questions or comments. I should perhaps ask Councillor Woods, because he's a member of that task force, if he has any comments or anything he wants to add to what I've said first. Councillor Woods, if you mind.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Not really that I want to add. I mean, it's kind of unfortunate that we didn't have the opportunity to have more meetings and explore the other avenues that we could take, right? Even if it's just reconfiguration, and had that, basically an estimate as to what the cost would be before the budget meeting. I know I've expressed to you the rising cost in construction materials is one for me that it's making me very leery of it. I do understand that staff is kind of cramped, but I still think we need to do more work, rather than just saying we'll go with the full-blown expansion. To me, it's timing the cost of construction and how high it's went up, and I think it's going to go up even further. I think that's the part that scares a lot of people, and it scares me a little bit, to be honest with you. But you're right. We need to do something to help staff out, and even if it's just reconfigure the space that we have, and the secure area where someone can't come marching in and yelling and screaming at a staff member. That's a very important one.
Okay, thank you. Who would like to go next? I see Councillor Gorham Matthews' picture on the screen, but you got the center of the screen, but I don't know if that's because you were starting to say something or just they decided you were the best looking of us. The folks at Zoom.
I don't know why I'm big. I'm not big on my screen. It just must be yours.
Oh, okay. Well, anybody else who would like to?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to comment if no one else is jumping in quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it is a big issue for sure, this material cost rising type scenario. It seemed to me someone said like the potential 100% increase in material costs these days. So it's something to be wary of. Whether we went for just reconfigure or not, I think there is an important move to be made here for the staff from a health and safety point of view. And I know I checked out and never brought it forward before, but the space per unit per person is not even close to being met in our present configuration. And by reconfiguring, hopefully we can add space for a couple more people to give proper office type facility especially for laying out plans and privacy and some different issues that is needed in the office. The front entrance, and has been identified just this last year, partly because of frustrations through COVID, I would think, but we've had a couple of very irate ratepayers come into the office on occasion, and they can walk right in and right to the back and right into people's offices. And the potential is still there, and I don't see that issue getting any better as time goes on. I think with society being such as it is, and so we've got such a moving society and roving people, we run the risk of transient issues of some sorts. So, I think a plan to try to stay away from something that'll get us in big trouble, big overexpenditure is significant. So it'll be interesting to see what our architect can come back with based on the meeting that you and Brian Michelle had with her. Hopefully there's something much more reasonable. I actually talked to our treasurer just recently, and personally, I don't think there's a horrible fear of refinancing a reasonable amount. Reasonable, that's in the eye of the beholder, I guess. It was thought to be 700,000, and maybe now it's 250,000. I'm not sure what, but in today's market, the municipality, we received such a decent break on the percentage charge on interest. Like a $250,000 loan, we're probably looking at, depending on, say, over 30 years, only about $12,000 or $13,000 per year. Or if it's over 20 years, it could be $15,000 a year. So, it's not insurmountable, especially having paid off the big debt we did on the existing building and fire hall, which was a major achievement. We were paying $120,000 a month, or pardon me, a year to pay off that debt. So I think we've got considerable room to move, especially in our debt and borrowing side of the fence, without hurting the municipality a whole lot. So if we can make some significant improvements at reasonable pricing here, I think it's worth certainly another serious opinion on the whole issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I go, Mr. Mayor?
You may.
Yeah, so definitely the rising costs of construction materials and labor, et cetera, this year makes you nervous. And I think what I'd like to see is whatever the architects come up with would be a plan that addresses our most immediate needs, which is the reception area. And if they could come up with a plan that would address that area first, but at the same time incorporate future expansion and ideas when things are more affordable and have leveled out a bit. But for sure, I think it's just consideration for our staff that needs to be addressed in terms of the reception area and creating an area that is safe for everyone to participate in.
Okay, thank you. So are there other comments? Okay, well, I guess if there aren't, I won't. We can move on to item S, which is the Township of Carling's resolution regarding monarch
Oh,
butterflies.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. I was talking and I thought I thought it was talking, but obviously I was muted, so I apologize. So,
okay, sorry. Now I go ahead. I was waiting for you. I thought you would be commenting.
Yeah. So, believe me, it's not unlike me not to comment on something like this. So anyway, I'm a bit. I feel like I'm the counselor on the outside who doesn't know what others know. Okay, I've seen emails flip around. You know, people flip emails to people and they send them to me, and I'm sure they send them to other counselors and whatever. And I thought, I don't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Both good and bad. Okay, so I can tell you I'm not buying everything that people are selling here. Okay, you know, and I think we've done a very poor job up to this time of either selling or justifying or putting information out on this thing. Okay. And I'll put myself in there too. Like, I mean, council has. I don't think we've done a very good job of that. I didn't expect tonight to get into 7 slides and get into a debate. I thought it was just, you know, we were going to pull out whatever correspondence, right? And I understand you're trying to respond to count or to Mr. Hickey. But it sure would have been nice if I got those slides this morning or at noon or at 1 o'clock, so I could at least look at them, as opposed to being, you know, surprised that, oh, here they are, right? Whoa, I guess I'm supposed to respond. I'm trying to read them on my telephone here and whatever. So I'm a bit surprised at all that. Do I recognize, I'm the only one on council that was there 10 years ago. So I recognize exactly what happened. I was part of it. I've got my own feelings on this. I want to be able to talk to the CAO on this matter. I've said 3 times, because there are things that I can't say right here in a public session that are, in my mind, part of this equation. I don't buy that the whole world is working from home and you know, we can't. And I don't buy that we're not digitized, so we can't, you know, kind of send files home with people and whatever. I understand. I don't want people coming in and, as you say, or someone said, you know, clumpsing back to the back office and swearing at people and all that kind of stuff. But there are easy fixes to those kinds of sorts of things, right? And there's also other requirements that are in the community. And again, I've never said I'm not against putting some money into some solutions. But what I was faced with until right now is, here's $700,000, right? And that's what we're putting in the budget, and for an office expansion with little detail. I have about as much as the public does on this thing. And so anyway, I'm not gonna go on and on and on. I think there's other space in our community that can be utilized. I think that there are many other factors that I'd like to look at. I'm certainly prepared to talk more on this thing when I'm a little more prepared. I think if we were going to get into this kind of detailed debate on the good and the bad, whatever, it should have been introduced as a item at council as an agenda item, and the public should have been duly notified of this, so that they could have come in and participated or listened or whatever, as opposed to just, here we go, away we go at the end of a meeting, right? So please take my responses I'm a bit, I won't say stunned, but I'm a bit surprised that we've gone to this kind of length. But I think what it is recognizing is that we haven't done a very good job of selling it, because we're trying to sell it now. And again, I want to talk to staff on this. I want to understand a little more on this thing. I'm certainly for, safety and all that kind of stuff and whatever. But, there's more to meet the eye than just let's go directly to 700 grand. Right now I'm hearing, well, it's not 700. There might be some interim sort of step, right? And, I'm all for interim smaller steps to address the issue. So, but I don't have enough information, nor have been shared enough information on this thing. I've asked 2 or 3 times to have staff reach out to me to explain it to me, to no avail. And I'll ask again publicly now for the same thing. And anyway, that's all I have to say. And I wish I'd been shared those slides a little earlier, so I could have spent an hour or so thinking through this. I guess it's a surprise to me. Okay, so anyway, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for your comments. Just a couple of things. First of all, about the slides. I put the slides together this afternoon, and I finished I sent them to the clerk just before 5 o'clock. So unfortunately, I did not have time to share them with anyone. The reason I did it was because I'm starting to see, besides Mr. Hickey, various other individuals who are clearly think that there is no sort of legitimate requirement for doing this, and are saying, gee, why are you, things like, well, why are you want to spend $700,000 to accommodate one additional person or whatever, and why doesn't everybody just work from home, and various other things of this sort. So I thought it was important for us to let everybody know a couple of things. The first thing is, there is a legitimate requirement to do something. And do I want to spend $100,000 or $700,000, sorry, on the big thing at this particular point in time? The big plan to make it, to really revamp it? No. It seems like a lot of money, and it could truthfully be more than that. And I think we've all talked about that. But the task force, sorry, just let me finish, please. What I wanted everybody to know was that the task force is in fact doing its job, and I fully appreciate that the ratepayers would have no information about what the justification for this is, and that's why I put the material together that I did, was to try to let people get some basic understanding about things that have been discussed. But hopefully everybody should understand that there is work still going on to try to see if there is something that may be much more modest than the full-blown plan that will address the most immediate requirements that we have, and that will then come to council, and everybody will have an opportunity to see exactly what the plan involves and what an accurate, up-to-date cost of doing it is, before there's any authorization given to go to tender for something to be done. So it's really just a question of trying to assure people that this thing is not sort of, nobody's if we put it in the budget, it's just going to happen without further discussion. So You know, I'll apologize for not for there not having been more information out there in advance, but I'm trying to do something about it at even at this late hour. And unfortunately, we didn't have an opportunity to get to it before now. But it's that's everybody should understand where we are, and there'll be more work done and more opportunities. So anyway. Yeah, normally speaking, it would have been a main agenda item, but I honestly didn't think that we were going to end up discussing it until next week. So, or until May 3rd. So that's why I put time into putting that together for you.
I agree. I thought it was May 3rd. Not tonight, but anyway.
All right. Well, we were asked to have this item on the, discussed. So, and I pretty much knew that was going to happen. All right. Can I go to item S, the monarch butterflies? Councillor Woods, I think you wanted us to pull this one.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thanks. I wanted to pull it, talk about it a little bit. Pretty much because I my whole life I've been actually fascinated with the monarch butterfly. I actually went down to Mexico about 15 years ago, right to where, they all hatch, massive hillside there, and it's amazing to see. My kids and I plant a bunch of milkweed seeds, and we got milkweed growing all around the yard. I mean, I get random ones through the lawn, and I'm cutting around them. If their resolution that they have here saying that, let me read it here. The mayor's monarch pledge, signing it and joining them. I think this is a good idea. I know my kids and we pulled some chrysalis off of spots where they would have been trampled last year, or actually the year before, and we had them hanging up in the house, and just explaining to my kids and some of their friends when they were here watching them hatch about how important the butterfly is. I think it's something we need to continue to promote. I was always surprised, not really surprised, but let's see, I was happy to see that anywhere on the roadsides where any milkweeds grow, they never get cut down. And I just think that's a fantastic thing, for people to plant more flowers and things that can feed the butterflies and attract them and help out the problems that the monarchs are having. I know there's been a lot of their population died off over the past 20 years. I think it'd be great just to do anything we can to promote it, maybe get some information out on the websites. Yeah, that's about it. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit.
Okay, well, thank you. Does anybody else have any, Councillor Gore Matthews?
Something to add?
Yes.
Yeah. So this kind of ties in with what Councillor Woods was speaking of. The Agricultural Society is actually has put together little packets of milkweed seeds. I had posted a flyer about it on the Dunchurch Fall Fair Facebook page, and there's 2 members that you can contact on that flyer that will give you packages of 4 different types of milkweed seeds that you can plant on your property, because we're encouraging people to support the monarchs as well. The only thing that we do add is that to not plant the milkweed near farmers' fields, because it's not particularly an invasive species, but it does spread very quickly, and it is poisonous to cattle and sheep. So if you could choose wisely where you plant your milkweed seeds, we would appreciate that.
A few years ago, I noticed that I'm going back a while. I noticed that the grass cutters that we hired to cut grass along the edge of the roads were, in one particular year anyway, they're just mowing it down. And of course, some of what they mowed down might very well have had chrysalises on them, So I asked our works manager of the day to, if he could instruct the folks doing that to avoid them. And I'm happy to say that I think they are still doing it. I think that part is part of the instruction. If you see a clump of milkweed where you're mowing, you lift the blade up and go over it, and just on the side of the road itself, to try and preserve as much habitat as we can. But because they're seriously threatened, it would appear, from all the reports. So anything else about this one? Okay, well, look, we're almost at the end of this here, and I don't want to prolong it, but the last item is number T, the OPP detachment proposal. And all I wanted to do is simply, and our clerk has included all of the material that was circulated very recently about some a framework for how this is supposed to work. But just so everybody is aware in the background, the government is committed to establishing detachment boards for every OPP detachment area. And the task that will fall to us as municipalities in the detachment, the West Parry Sound detachment area, will be to agree on a proposal for how that board should work and what the representation on it will be and that sort of thing. So just to let you know that there's some background material there that you can read. What I would propose to do is to arrange for a presentation when we get a little bit closer. Like right now, I don't even know sort of who's driving this particular train. It isn't supposed to be the detachment, it's but proposals, basically each detachment area can come up with its specific proposal, and then those ones, once everybody sort of agrees to it, then it goes into the Ministry of the Solicitor General and they approve it. So it can't be totally out. It has to follow a framework, but there's room for customization depending on the size and shape of your detachment area and who's involved and so on. Of course, some of them are single municipalities almost, but in any case, it's really just for information and to make everybody aware that this is going on. Councillor McEwen is normally our he has been our representative on the as the sort of the liaison to the OPP, and so he has been following this perhaps more closely than any of us. But anyway, that's as I say, it's just for information, and I'll see if perhaps there's a couple of workshops that are coming up at which folks can get insight into how this is all supposed to work. So both of us will probably participate in those just so we know what's going on, and maybe we'll be in a position later on. This is all supposed to unfold sometime this year, but I don't know.
And Mr. Mayor, can I make just a quick comment on this?
Sure, absolutely.
We had a CPAC meeting just last week, actually, just past Thursday, which was kind of opportune in some ways. There's still a lot of unanswered questions, but the OPP detachment itself have really no say in the establishment of the new service board. It's basically up to the municipalities in conjunction with the First Nation groups we have within West Parry Sound, for instance. So what came out of the meeting was, I guess, unanimous support to basically stay with a framework that would encompass West Parry Sound as it now presently stands. The CPAC unit we have, for all intents and purposes, has provided pretty good service and worked quite well, as we feel anyway. So each participating member was asked to go back to their councils to inform them that there is this unanimity within West Parry Sound group of CPAC folks, and we may be seeking something from councils, individual councils, once we get a bit more information on this to move us forward. But the gist of it is that the local CPAC group has worked, I think, quite effectively. We've had a lot of change in the OPPs over the last 4 or 5 years, which has made it kind of difficult, but it's held together pretty well. And that's a problem in a lot of the neighboring and the other jurisdictions where OPP boundaries overlap into different municipalities, and there's all kinds of different issues out there. Fortunately, we only work within one detachment area in West Prairie Sound, including Whitestone. So it sets us up for a nice, I guess, I don't know if it's nice, but it's a working unit that we feel is functional. So what came out of the meeting was that they would like to propose that we maintain close to status quo in representation and work within West Prairie Sound detachment area. Now, there are other stipulations within the new services board that will dictate that you have non-council members on the board, and there are some logistics to work out in a lot of ways. So, but just to let you know that it is ongoing, and I'd like to attend one of the sessions, probably May the 4th for me, for one that would work out, and that would be a Zoom session. So anyway, as Mr. Mayor mentioned, it's information basically at this point, but Solicitor General is going to come down with some hard and fast rules at some point in time, or down through their office anyway, to dictate. Now, I hope it's not just a very cumbersome thing that they dictate, and isn't something we don't want to participate in and don't have much control over. But anyway, it's an ongoing issue and a bit of a moving target in some ways. So I'll try to keep council appraised. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor McEwen. Any other questions or comments? If not, I realized that when we moved this motion, I didn't call the question on it. We went ahead and dealt with the items that were withdrawn, that were pulled, at least for discussion. Can I ask if anyone has any objection to us approving the motion for the record? Since we've already done what we agreed, I think. Okay, hearing none, I will say that's carried. That then brings us to councillor items. Are there any items that councillors wish to announce or raise?
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I have actually a couple, if I could please. I'll be real quick. One, I believe our neighbor Natalie, next door to Ted Greenwood's, is on the line to speak when or ask a question at question period, or talk to council briefly about the fencing that is part of the, I guess, the agreement between Mr. Greenwood and the municipality. So she has some concerns and she'd like to address us on that one. Secondly, I have a request that we get a detailed report to update the overall expenditures on the library project and refurbishing project that we went through. And basically for the reason that I get questions the other time from folks out there, and I can't really answer the questions because they don't know where we're at from when we reworked the contract and changed several times over the last year to get to where we are. So I think it should be transparent and good to for councillors and public to know exactly where we stand on the overall cost of the project in detail. If we could have that from staff for a future meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Are there any other councillor items? Okay, hearing none.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, go ahead.
I couldn't get unmuted. So on the weekend, I went up to Nesbitt Trail to do my spring cleanup type thing. And Yeah, you have to go back with the chainsaw and remove a couple trees. But at the second entrance to the trail, there is quite large tracks from the four-wheelers when you go up that hill, and then there's the little wooden bridge. Are we just going to leave that for this year until we have some resolution with regards to ATV use on the trail and the whole Black Lake issue? You can walk the trail by going around all these areas that have been damaged by the ATVs. I actually went in running shoes and I made it through with no wet feet. So it can be done if you're light of foot to hop puddles and such. But I'm just wondering what, if council has given any thought. Like, we do have a $500 budget for the walking trails. We usually use it to update signage and things like that. And we are looking at signage from the Whitestone trail this year, identifying different tree species and things like that. So we'll use some of it for that. I'm just wondering what everyone's feelings are towards gravel or something for some of the bad areas on Nesbitt Trail that have been damaged by the ATVs. I'm not thinking doing the whole part, but that one issue when you can see it right from Clear Lake Road at the second spot. It's pretty big ruts. So I'm just wondering what our thoughts are in terms of addressing those, or just leave them until we get sorted out with the other.
Okay, well, I can perhaps report a little bit on this. You are no doubt aware that we did have another delegation this year at the Roma conference with the, it was actually the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Natural Resources. And basically it highlighted the problems that are happening with what I refer to as the abuse of Crown lands back at Black Lake in the vicinity of Black and Round Lakes, which is further along the road from where the Nesbitt Trail is, further on in towards Bolger. But we also included in that the fact that there was the Nesbitt Trail was being damaged by ATVs, and in fact somebody had gone in and brought a camper in there and a whole bunch of stuff. And when I reported it to the MNRF in the fall, that there were people sort of, well, the person who was there was referred to as a squatter. They came and evicted that person. Their enforcement officers did. But we got into a lengthy discussion about whether or not we could in fact enforce anything, but particularly municipal bylaws on Crown land, including Crown land for which we have a land use permit, but because that is an example of land for which we have a land use permit. And my thought, and this is based on previous discussions that we've had in council about it, was that we should simply ban all-terrain vehicles or off-road vehicles or any other kind of vehicles, not snowmobiles in the wintertime, but in the summer season, that vehicles should be banned from the trail entirely. And, you know, the MNR's sort of default position for these things was, well, you know, the public can sort of do what they want with Crown land. And they don't really mean that, but that's kind of the, you know, they weren't trying to be overly restrictive. The message that I am now getting from them is that, in fact, we can, and they've sent some material along to look at, that we can, in fact, enforce bylaws. And I think we need to check this out sort of legally and make sure, but there's still a little bit of work to be done. But my thought was that, in fact, what we should do is we should simply ban them and post it. And so to jump the gun, my answer would be, I think we should spend a little bit of money to fix up the parts that are not really usable as a hiking trail. And we should, and probably we should we should post it. I don't know that the MNR is willing to do it, but probably we should post it as something like no all-terrain vehicles or something, put some signage up and basically say, no, you're not going on this. And if we chose to enforce that, we could pass a bylaw, and it looks like we could pass a bylaw and say, no, can't do it. We can't enforce the public lands. Our bylaw enforcement officers cannot enforce the Public Lands Act, but we can enforce our own bylaw on Crown lands, especially if we have a land use permit for it, as we do in this particular case. So anyway, it's still, the discussions on this are still ongoing, but and so I don't have it's another one of these things that I was really hoping that we would have a good report for you by now, but everything takes a while. So anyway, that's my comment. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on the matter. Maybe I should ask, do you have a sense of what it would take to fix it up if we were to try to go in there with probably with an ATV and a little trailer with some gravel or something? Can it be fixed up cheaply and easily?
Yeah, I think the worst spot is accessible right off the road there, right off Clear Lake Road. The rest I wouldn't worry about too much. It's still very early in the season. A lot of it will dry up. And like I said, I was able to walk around everything that was really messed up in the middle of the trail. So the main spot is just getting up that big hill and coming down that big hill. There's a lot of washouts and ruts and things. So, but I don't want to spend money on it and then, 10 yahoos go up on a weekend and they dig it all up again. So, I think we should just leave it for this year until we get the signage or the bylaw in place.
Okay, well, we still, of course, have the risk that even if we did have the signage and bylaw in place, somebody comes along and decides to do that anyway. By the time we find out about it and get somebody, either the MNR or our own bylaw officer, to get there, and they could be gone, right? So enforcement of these things is always an issue, but I mean, I agree with you. The starting point is to make it clear that people shouldn't do it. Anyway, well, anybody else? Okay, if nothing, we are at questions from the public.
Doug Hickey would like to speak.
Go ahead, Doug.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to thank you, the council, for letting my correspondence be part of tonight's meeting. I appreciate the attention of God. I appreciate the information. I also want to thank you for acknowledging the fact that the community really didn't have a lot of information. And for the most part thought it's $700,000, that's it. We're going to vote on May 3rd and away we go. And it's also probably why you've heard so much input from the community. So tonight helped. Having said that, it's also unfortunate that the public didn't know that there was going to be such a lengthy conversation. Although it's good, there would probably have been more people on the call tonight. So some of that may need to be repeated on May 3rd. Two more points. I am encouraged about hearing that folks are looking at alternate solutions. And I think that's something that's very required. So thank you for that. And my last point is I'd still like to see, and I think the public would like to see, looking at creative ways. What I've heard is all the reasons why. I came from business. And the alternative is, there's probably as many reasons or many reasons why not. And so that's why I'm hoping to hear more about alternatives. Things like, use of existing facilities. We do have a library with meeting rooms. We have a community center that has room available for meetings. So those resources should be included in looking at your creative solutions. So thank you for what you're doing.
Okay. Thank you for your comment. Are there other questions from the public? I don't even know if there are other members of the public still here. Maybe they're.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that second last phone number, the last phone number there is
Nathalie?
I wonder if she knows how to get in.
Nathalie, if you are on the call and you would like to speak, if you press *6 on your phone, you can unmute yourself. But that may not be, that particular number may not be you. I don't know.
So
Anyway, just to address the issue, since Councillor McEwen had brought it up, there was a request from for us to revisit one of the conditions that we applied in the development agreement for that property, the property owned by Ted Greenwood. And so but there is a proper process for that, is that we have to get an official request, which I believe we have, at least by email now, that just came in sort of just before the meeting started. And our staff will take a look at that and brief council on what the procedure is that we need to follow to revisit it. But I think in the meantime, nothing is going to happen as far as this is related to construction of a sort of a privacy fence that was part of the discussion. Some of you will remember this when it came up. So I don't think there's anything for us to do about it tonight.
Mr. Mayor, I believe she's on the line now.
Oh, okay.
Hi, yes, I am. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh, sorry. I couldn't see you there, but go ahead, please, Natalie.
No worries. Thank you. I just wanted to mention the fence. So I don't want the fence. I've spoke to a couple of people today that are here, so they're aware I don't want the fence. The fence just isn't going to do anything but look awkward and ridiculous, in my opinion, because of the angle, because of how far it's running. And it's not taking care of the noise. It won't drown any of that out anyway. Not that there's been noise, but you can hear stuff, and a fence like that isn't going to fix that. So I rather keep the ambience of how things are looking right now with the trees, the grass. I don't want trees to be cut down because of a fence that really isn't going to do anything for me. And Ted doesn't want to put up the fence either, and I don't want the fence. So I feel that with the two of our properties side by side and connecting, that there shouldn't be a fence if neither one of us cares to have a fence. So I was asking if we could leave the fence out of the schedule or contract, or whichever it is that the terminology is that you guys have, the bylaw. I'm not sure what it is you guys call it, but I would like the fence to be left out if possible, please.
Okay, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, we did formalize this requirement in the bylaw approving the rezoning, and there is an attached it's a site plan agreement, I guess, really.
Mhm.
To which the and Mr. Greenwood is bound. So there is a process if we wish to relax a condition of that agreement that we would have to follow, and it would require a resolution of council. But as I said a minute ago, it's staff has this matter in hand, and
Yeah.
will bring something back to us in due course after they've got an official, satisfied that they have an official request to reconsider it and so on, and then at that point we'll know what it is we have to do to or what we can do about it.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from the public? If not, we are ready for the confirming bylaw, I think. Could I get a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move it, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb.
I'll
Seconded by,
second, Councilor McEwen.
thank you, Councillor McEwen. Anyone opposed to approving that confirming bylaw? If not, I'll declare it carried. And that brings us to adjournment. Who would like to move that?
I'll move, Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Seconded by,
I'll second.
thank you, Councillor Gorham Matthews. Now therefore be it resolved that this meeting be adjourned at 9:24 p.m. until the next scheduled meeting of Monday, May the 3rd at 6:30 p.m. or at the call of the chair. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Good night, everyone.
Appreciate it. It's been a good meeting, and have a good evening.
Good night, folks. Good night, folks.
Bye, everyone.